welcome back to RSQ. We finished listening to Save Scumming by Ravensdagger. Soundbooth Theater sent us a copy of the audiobook for this one and said, listen to it and let the world know what you think. So this is us letting you know what we think.
The world.
You're the
All
world.
the world is listening now. Yeah, I was super glad we got this opportunity. They reached out to us. Was like, hey, looks like something you might enjoy. Check it out. If you want to pull up the cover again, we'll just hop right into it.
Yeah. Jeff Hayes did some of the audio on this. He's the guy from Dungeon Crawler Carl. He had a couple of cameos, but he was not the main character. But this is the cover. That's our main character, Deadline, on the front with her pistol.
I always say it. I'm not a huge fan of characters in the front. I feel like for this book specifically, I'm okay with it just because of I don't know. I feel like it fits the book pretty well. I don't know if it would have drawn me in to start, but now that I've read it,
Yeah, I agree. I'm
of
also normally a hater of main characters on the front cover, but in a situation where like we don't know much going into the book, and it's like different for me if it's like future books suddenly have characters on them and I have to like kill whatever image in my head has been generated for whatever image is now on the front cover.
yeah.
You know? But yeah, the cover looks kind of stereotypical for like a what am I trying to say here? Like a manga, or that you would find like on the shelf at like Barnes Noble. So it's not like super crazy eye catching, but it looks cool.
Yeah, gives the general aesthetic of how the book is essentially. But character development. How are you feeling in our category here?
Okay, I feel the need to say this at the very beginning because it's going to affect how I score the rest of this. I think that this suffers from my favorite problem that I talk about LitRPGs and regression fantasies. This was really fun, but I do feel like we didn't do much other than watch the main character use their powers. As far as like the whole scope, it was just like what would you do if you could suddenly revert to a save point? And it was like, go to the gym, say something stupid to someone, revert to a save point. Like it was just a lot of like doing that and not as much as I wanted developing it, which we'll see throughout our whole review where I feel that way and don't feel that way. But I felt the need to preface with that. I liked the main character's interactions with Jane. I thought like Jane, we got the most back and forth with and the most like
Banter?
Dialogue. Yeah, like banter and dialogue. Other than that, it was like internal. And so development was kind of like, it was just a little bit flat. We didn't do much in terms of character growth, character like emotions, character tragedies, character wins. It felt a little simple, right? At least to me.
I don't disagree. It's
do have a
hard because she could
caveat.
redo everything. So like a lot of the development that she would have had with characters like is kind of scrubbed. And then
Yeah.
she gets like the ideal situation. So it's almost like part of what's happening. So like she has interactions that are like meaningful with Jane and then gets rid of them and it changes her. So like there is development, but it's like fabricated development in some areas. So it feels less genuine when she's kind of like manipulating situations. So I almost actually want to like, because I was going to give it a 0.5. I almost want to give it a 1 because I feel like that's kind of almost the point is the fact that a lot of these aren't going to feel as genuine because everybody's being manipulated the whole time.
I was just going to say that I think one slight point I may be forgetting about is that we see the main character have a lot of growth as they build the ideal situation, right? Like the ways in which she interacts with Fran and how she's like learning, like does multiple saves to learn how she can like portray herself best for the situation. So I guess that is some growth that we see her like when she does the dungeons over and over again and we watch her like grow into the person that can successfully complete it.
I think I liked to, and I mean, I guess we'll talk about it later, but I'm going to forget. So I'll talk about it now. The fact that all the successful Fran interactions were always from Fran's perspective. So like anytime we had deadlines, like POVs, it was like not right. She's figuring it out. But once it switched to Fran, you're like, oh, this is the winner. But yeah, so I switched that to a full point. I feel fine with it.
Yeah, I'm still a little torn if I want to go 0.75 or if I want to go 1. I think this was mostly internal. We mostly see her talking to herself. So I'm okay, I think, going with a 1, but no one else is really developed. So it's like still a one character book. We got a little bit, we do see some Fran and some Jane, but I don't know that, like you said, it's scrubbed. But
I see what you're saying too. I feel like it could be either
I'm a little
way,
torn.
right? Yeah. We can come back to it. I'm going to keep mine. Originality and creativity. I think it was creative. I enjoyed what was done. I feel like it's done a lot, so it's not overly original, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I'm still gonna dock the point for it because it's like it does kind of it felt like exactly like so many other things. But I feel like there were still creative parts with it, like the whole like emotional aspect to all the different spells and everything like that. And I don't know, I enjoyed it, but it felt a lot like other things. So, which could be good and bad because if you really like those things, then congratulations, you have another thing to read about. But if you're looking for something a little bit different, I don't know if this.
Yeah, I'm really torn in this category because it did feel like a lot of other things. I put specifically in here that it felt like Cradle and solo leveling. As far as the way the progression and the magic worked.
Yeah.
I liked the cyberpunk twists that were thrown in. I don't know that we often see cyberpunk mixed with this kind of lit RPG, and that the characters can get like
Augments and stuff.
yeah, like physical augments that complement their magic. That's not something that I don't think we see very often.
It was cool.
So-
It sounded like anything could be augmented. Like,
Yeah,
didn't she get like a throat one that could like filter out toxins and
yeah.
stuff?
So I think I'm on the same vein as you if we're looking at it like half a point for creative and half a point for original, in that it did feel like a lot of other stuff. So I don't know that I can give it a full point here, but I don't know. Normally when I give it a full point, when something feels like a repeated genre, I'm like, but it felt fresh. I don't know that I had that like spark of like, this feels like it does enough of its own stuff to not feel.
And that's the hard part with this category too, is because I feel like even docking a half point doesn't necessarily mean it was bad, because it could be like another version of something really good, right? Like you really like this trope. This is exactly that trope. So here's more of it. But like you said, it missed the freshness.
Yeah,
I suppose. So half
I
point.
suppose. Half point. Engaging storyline. You go first.
I enjoyed the story. I liked her. I am a big fan of book ones, right? I like the very base learning and world building and trying to figure out like spell, like Harry Potter book one. We have to buy our wand. Oh, we have to learn like the very basics of the spell. I love that early beginning world building stuff. Those are my favorites. And I think that we got a lot of that in this book. So I enjoyed the story. I think I'm gonna dock later on in like pacing. But I felt there was never a point in this book where I'm like, I don't like what's happening. So I give it the full point here, and I think later on I have other issues or problems that I want to talk about. But engaging storyline, I felt engaged.
Hmm. 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 I have a lot of thoughts in this category too, and it's a really good way that you looked at it that I think that I'm going to potentially dock in other categories. And is that like I was engaged and I had fun, so I'm going to give it a point because I enjoyed listening to this. Like it was a fun ride, and everything that was going on was like, this is fun. I'm having like a genuinely good time listening to it. I just question like what we accomplished, like the plot. What was the plot? What was the like main like problem? Did we make like progress on it? Did like our like it was. To me, we're just like watching the character level up was like kind of how I felt, but it was fun. Like these stories, that's kind of like what they do, right? So it was a good time. I enjoyed the ride, so I will give it a point here, but needed to make my grievance known.
Well, segue right into story, and then is this where you're thinking of?
There's one of
Yeah.
well, yeah, I put that it kind of just ended. Like it
felt kind of like a. Normally, I feel like we have a book and it leads to a culmination of things, like we solved a problem and then another problem happens because of that. I feel like we didn't solve a problem or beat a big baddie or anything. It kind of just ended like.
Yeah, I will say that I think the part of that comes from the style of this book. Like it's being written on Royal Road in like weekly chapter releases. I don't know. This isn't really a defense as much as it's just like maybe they were like, this is a good place for like the first book to end, but I don't think that it was a good place for the first book to end. I think they needed some sort of like end of an arc or end of a character arc or end of like a problem, like you said. I think like I'm thinking about Solo Leveling, and that is multiple volumes, both the Japanese serial that came out as well as the anime and the manga. Like they each end of a season or of like a volume, if you read the book, is still like a big thing happens and our character has like explosive growth or like solves a problem.
Well, I think that's anything.
Yeah. I put in my notes that it just ended. We didn't do anything specific for the plot. I had a good time. It was fun, but nothing was like, no additional items were set up for the future other than like what was already in progress.
I feel like this would have been like a good, instead of book one, it would have been book one, part one with the next part coming out. Because I feel like
Yeah.
Now she's got Fran on her side, which is, something that she was working towards, but there was no real overcoming anything. Like there was, like we said, I feel like if this was a 20 chapter book, right? Let's just say the book
Mhm.
ended on chapter 17 and we're like, wait a minute, I thought there was more. Like, and then it just ended. It's like, thank you. This has been Soundbooth Theater and blah, blah. I was like,
I'm like, wait,
uh,
that's it?
where's the rest of
Yeah.
it? So I give this a half. I gave it a half point, but I kind of want to, do I be harsh and give it a 0?
I think I want to give it a
Because,
0 too.
and
Like
not even like, go ahead.
the half point would be, I don't think it deserves a half point for just ending, right? Like it's for just being like the end. Like I don't know if that's worth any points. I think we needed the story to end or to have some sort of wrap up if we're thinking about like our category in a technical way. And the conclusion, I don't think
Because there's not
we
even a
had any.
cliffhanger.
Yeah,
Yeah, giving it a 0,
me too.
which is a bummer.
This one is a rare moment, and especially for this category.
Yeah, story end being a 0.
Like I said, I
interesting.
feel like I need to say this a lot throughout the review. It was a fun book. I enjoyed listening to it, and
I'm looking forward to the second one.
Yeah.
I just felt like we got dropped off the face of the planet.
Yeah, same.
Also, this is a me problem though. So I started this book on my way to work one morning. So it's like 6 in the morning or something. And I missed the beginning, which tells you the plot. Like the whole reason the character is doing things. Like I was just tired. And then like 20 minutes in, I was thinking, I was like, okay, so she got this power. Then she goes, I have to stop this thing from happening 9 months from now. I'm like, wait,
You're like, where'd this come from?
what happened? So like the whole time I was like, so I had to go back and be like,
There it is.
like, there it is. So that was the main problem.
Yeah. I mean, I have problem with it because we didn't do anything about that big problem. I mean, she made like really incremental progress, but like I said,
See,
it was just
I'm fine with it because we know the future problem. The problem with this book was there was nothing, like no big hump that we like had,
Yeah.
but like things progress and she is learning. So I think we're headed towards that. I just think we didn't, like, if there were checkpoints like in a story or acts, I feel like we're still in act 1. We never made it to the end of the act.
It's true. I agree.
World building and setting. I liked the setting and I thought world building was fine. I thought the way they described the spells and the magic and the portals, I had no issues with personally. I felt like it was easy to follow. So, and I like things like this. Like I like solo leveling and like, even though it's a common, trope with everything, especially with the time looping thing, it's fun to read and listen to. So I enjoy.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it a point here as well. Sorry, I went to go and rate it and I hit enter and I was on Riverside and then I marked the video and I thought I hit stop and that would have been annoying. Anyways, I marked it again so I can delete this whole tangent. I give it a point here as well. I have some complaints. Like I always want more in world building. And so maybe this is a me issue and I'll own that, but I'm giving it a point. But I would have liked some more, like solo leveling. We find out at
I feel
the
like
end.
you like, I'm going to cut you off. I feel like you like exposition is what you like. I don't think you
Yeah.
necessarily want more world building. I think you want the things that they're giving us to just be talked about more. Like, you gave me the answer to this. Well, tell me more about the thing that you just told me, which is fine. But I feel like you want more pages in the book, not necessarily more content.
I understand what you're saying. I don't know that that's always true. In
Not
this
always, not
situation
always.
specifically, I think I did want more content about like the landscape. Like solo leveling tells us like portals started popping up and now we have awakened people. And it's like clear that like the awakened people came with the portals. And like I just wanted something like that, right? Like I don't know that we got any sort of backstory about the world other than like portals are a thing. And I know that in 9 months there's gonna be a big incursion that's gonna kill a bunch of people.
I do want to say that the portals weren't always a thing. And I think she said that they started X amount of years ago.
So maybe I just missed that. But like I said, I am giving it a point.
Okay. I feel like we need to talk about your wants and needs.
Yeah, I need to understand, I think. Like part of it is me needing to be more understanding of the fact that book ones don't give me all the answers and being okay with that. Like we don't find out, and I don't think have you finished solo leveling? Probably not, because you're watching it, right?
I'm just watching it.
We don't get the answers until like the end. And then it's like, now we have all the answers and the world building is complete. So like, I guess I think I need to be more okay with not having all the answers, but it's more, I always want to understand the world more. And I think that my problem is that like sometimes part of the problem in the books is not going to be revealed, is part of the world building is intricately tied in with the trials and it's not always going to be revealed. Like the why isn't always going to be revealed until later.
I think if we want to talk about like a good example that is also the problem is, and so an example would be any Brandon Sanderson book, right? We'll talk about like specifically, we'll just talk Mistborn. So you have a lot of things happening, right? You have like, you're getting world building, but there's clearly stuff you don't understand, but there's no expectation that you're going to figure it out because you know you're going to get it. You're not like, oh, I hope they answer this. You know, eventually,
Yeah.
you know, the pothole instead of plot hole, the pothole is going to be filled, right? You're driving along the road and there's all these gaps that you see, but you know, eventually those are going to be filled as
Yeah.
opposed to with, you know, other maybe either authors that haven't written as much or you don't know, like you haven't heard anything about them. You don't know for certain that these plot holes intentional or are they accidental or things that were just missed. And I think that is part of the problem because you read something so good for somebody who has 25 books in this huge series where all things interconnected, plot holes will be answered books later, and you're okay with that missing information, but you don't know if you're okay with this missing information.
It's true. I agree. And it's usually history related for me. Like I want the history of the world. Like
I do too.
when we talked about Flame Spitter, I wanted more history of magic, history of the world. And so like it's the expectation that like maybe if I get it in the future that'll be great, but also I don't need to have all the answers. Like I don't need to know, like the main character might not know where magic comes from, and that's fine. But more so I just want to understand more about like why the world currently is the way it is as far as
You
their
want
understanding.
Dandelion Dynasty length books and history.
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Yes.
Can you imagine a dramatized version of that? What that would be like?
That would be amazing. Graphic audio.
This is a quick tangent. I have now seen 4 posts recently, people praising the hell out of Three Body Problem series. Absolutely loving it. And I'm like, oh, it's so like intellectual. It was so good and blah, blah. I'm like, this was boring. It wasn't like, it was easily understandable. And it was like, there was a lot going on, a lot of like, you know, I don't know, high level stuff to think about, but it wasn't hard. It was just boring.
I have so many things to say about that. About like Three Body Problem is it's not a traditionally excellent book. Someone who is very into sci-fi, who likes classical sci-fi, could really enjoy it and really like it. I don't think we can glaze it as an amazing story for the general the general public, because it's not
niche.
Yeah, it's really niche. Like
And the fact that that got greenlit as a show.
Example. Yeah.
We're ranting. This is
we're full
you're
rant.
about to light the fire.
I was gonna say that Catabasis is a really good example of how like someone who has the experience of working for a PhD and their master's and like writing a thesis and like spending hours and hours, like more than just a bachelor's, someone who is intimately familiar with the rigors of research higher education could have an appreciation for Catabasis in a way that I don't. And that's fine, but I'm not gonna. It doesn't make me say like this is so incredible. Like same with Three Body Problem. I don't know how that show got greenlit and how everybody's like, "This is so amazing," when it's not.
I feel like even if you're like super into physics and like, because that's, you know, Three Body Problem, but and you're super into just how that story played out, I guess, or like the whole background of everything we got, it still wouldn't necessarily be any less dry.
Yeah. I don't like when books do only one thing. And maybe that's a me thing. I don't like when a book's one thing is like, that's why you read it, right? Like it's been my general complaint about lit RPGs and progression fantasy. Sometimes we just watch the main character level up. We just watch them get stronger. And that's the like one thing that you read for. And so for Three Body Problem, the one thing would be like the cool, like sciencey stuff that's created. I don't like books with just one thing. I want to see like a well-rounded like character and story and problems and trials that they overcome, or like emotions that are done and a well-written ending. I don't like just one thing.
I'm gonna segue kind of back into the book a bit here with the fact that I feel like this, I guess call it a subgenre of like time looping and like having time looping with leveling and portaling and stuff, kind of like soul leveling. I feel like it reads, or the best media form for this is anime, or possibly like, I mean, I haven't read manga, so maybe, but like for me, it would be anime. Like if I were just sitting down reading this as words, I would be a little bit more, I'd be less patient with it because, and I'm going to now segue into pacing. I had issues with the pacing because there was like 8 separate times where we'll watch the character go through almost like 15 to 20 different loops of the same dungeon or the same thing that she did, which makes sense in the story and it makes sense for the character. And it all makes sense except for the fact that it's not necessarily enjoyable to just sit and read that. If I was watching it, it's quicker. Like you can see her run through the loops and without having to have all the exposition with it. I feel like all the extra words didn't benefit necessarily.
Yeah.
the pacing. It slowed the book down. I enjoyed it, but I feel like it was the wrong medium for me.
I agree, and this could be a good one to get a webtoon. Like this is the same way that Solo Leveling started. Solo Leveling was a light novel, which is like a Japanese serial that did the same kind of thing as Royal Road. It did one chapter a week, and then it got picked up as a manga and now as an anime. And so like this could be that. It's just like on RSQ, we're looking at like traditional books. So it's tough to compare it side by side to a traditional book. Like I said, it was fun, and I wholeheartedly agree with you that this could be done really well as an anime or as like a manga or comic book. But the actual act of like reading it would be even slower than I think listening. Listening was fine, and I enjoyed listening to it, but
I enjoyed listening
some of those
too.
moments got a bit repetitive.
I did enjoy listening to it, not necessarily while I was driving, but while I was mowing the lawn. It was like just a monotonous thing that I was doing, and I got to like listen to this. That's when I enjoyed this book the most. But I give it a half point. I felt like I'm gonna give it 0.75 because I didn't think the pacing was terrible. I just think there was those like looping moments were a little bit aggravating.
Yeah, that's
But
fair.
the structure was fine. Did you say what you rated it?
I give 0.75 as well.
0.75. It just had to be different.
0.75, 0.75. What can I say? I'm a bit of a follower. No, I agree.
0.7 tens and 5 ones.
The structure and pacing was we didn't really have an ending, but we already docked a point for that there. So I don't think we need to rehash that one. But yeah.
The structure of the story wasn't bad, but I would say the structure of the book was strange.
I don't know.
So that's the hard part of it. Because the story, I'm sure overall it would make sense. But the fact that like the book ended in like Act 2, I'm like, you got blue balled a bit.
Yeah, that to me feels like a lack of structure though, because we didn't have like typical story movements. This was very much like character driven and not plot driven. And so the whole structure of it was us watching her like do her save scumming and not really watching any like sort of like, I don't know that we had many plot points in this book that were
like
when I look at it from a big picture and I'm like, summarize how the book, like the beginning, middle, and end. I don't have like a typical point that I'm going to say is like, it doesn't hit the structure boxes for me. So I think I am going to drop it down to like a 0.5.
So I just did as well too. Because there was no like road checks, right? For like a book where like we're hitting these points. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Who's the follower now? It's you.
I'm gonna go emotional impact. It was a weird one because again, I feel like it's the subgenre of like, I mean, partly the subgenre. It's partly the fact that she can manufacture everybody around her's kind of emotion and how they're going to react to things to make it perfect for what's going to work for her. So we can really only rely on the main character's emotions, and I feel like the main character's emotions are kind of monotone. Because she even says she's having a hard time when she's doing like different emotional spells, right? She sits on like the boredom, like not apathetic, whatever the other one was, kind of like on that line. So like it's hard for her to conjure up sad things. It's hard, like, and I felt like that kind of showed a lot of what she was doing.
Yeah,
You
like
saw
her-
a frustrated character, and you saw like, but then she just fixed her frustration things by just looping. So I don't know if she had much emotional range.
Yeah.
Because even the main point
think she
was,
did either.
oh, yeah, I guess I should probably stop this portal thing from happening. Like, I don't have to, but now that I got the power to do it, like, I might as well. Like, trying to be, like, aloof with it. And it just came off as, like...
Yeah, I think I'm going with 0.25 because I feel like we were not in the, like, there were some emotions, but more in the closer to none, other than there were a couple of situations with, like, Jane and not really Fran. Fran's were, like she was playing Fran in the moments that mattered. It was not like they had a connection, but I did feel like with Jane, we had a couple of like I enjoyed the banter that she had with Jane, and she was being really candid with her sometimes, and that was like, oh, we're gonna see some growth, and then she just like wiped it, and then it's gone, which is like, so I went 0.25 because I feel like there was almost none other than like a couple of situations, not when like we're like, oh, there's some I could have used more. Felt like it was closer to like not much emotional impact.
Yeah, I'm going 0.5.
Okay, that's fair. For you?
I don't know if I had an issue with the writing style and prose. Like I said, I liked the POV switching to Fran during successful loops. I thought was a cool thing to do. And I thought the prose, I mean, all the characters felt like, real people. Like it all kind of made sense. I mean, there was a lot of stereotypes with a lot of these characters. But I feel like the characters acted and everything as they should have. Like I didn't feel anybody felt out of place.
Yeah. I think this is a good place to also mention narration because kind of feels like it fits with the writing style and prose as far as the like.
Yeah.
And I thought the narration was great. I really enjoyed the Soundbooth Theater production. It was really good. I enjoyed the few cameos we had. It was fun to hear Jeff Hayes in there. It sounded like Mordecai to me when he was in there. I was like, that feels like his Mordecai voice. But it was easy to digest, easy to listen to. It was palatable. I gave it a point.
Quick mark. Annie Ellicott was the main.
Oh yeah, the main character, the person who narrated.
Yeah. So if you want to mark
Yeah,
it,
she did good.
Yeah, I think the narrator Annie Ellicott did a really good job. I liked her voice. I think she fit the character that she voiced really well. So I enjoyed listening to her.
Same.
Which is interesting because I'm listening to another book now, and it's not having it be a Soundbooth Theater or not having it be a dramatized version of a book. It makes it almost like kind of boring.
It's sad. They ruin regular audiobooks for me because it's just not as good.
I know. So I thought she did a good job. So I think that's worth it.
Soundbooth Theater does great. Graphic audios are great. My experience with any sort of audiobook production company has been really good. Meaningful themes and depth. I also went a little harsh on this one. A lot of the themes, in my opinion, came from the concept of living with no consequences, like abusing goodwill, and like I get away with whatever I want because I can just turn back time. I don't know. I'm having trouble picking up other themes. And part of that, I think, is like my difficulty with emotional impact. Like,
yeah, I feel like there is something to be said, though, about the fact that there are some things like she, even in a loop, like wouldn't do, right? Even if it was like she had like some lines that she wouldn't draw. But at the same time, like you said, there are no consequences. She could do anything, but she's not doing it. And her goal is still like, what can I do to better further myself? And I guess whoever she ends up putting on her team or whatever to
maybe
stop
like the
this
best
thing from
version of
happening
yourself.
that, like, she doesn't have to. Yeah. So like I think they're loosely there. I think, like you said, it is stunted by the fact that emotional impact was tough and you kind of loop yourself out of whatever. So
there's no consequences.
But I think that's also a theme. Like, what is someone going to do in a situation without consequences when there is?
What do you do when no one's watching?
Do you put your shopping cart away?
Never.
But I don't feel like our main character was very deep, which is the hard part. Even just like on a just standard level, I think they were very plain Jane.
I see what you did there. You're not funny.
So I'm getting a half point.
I did as well.
And then final category, lasting impact and rereadability. I don't know if this had a lasting impact. The audio did. I really enjoyed the audio. But the book itself, I don't know if it necessarily stood out in terms of like, wow, this is blowing me away. But I do, when the second book comes out, I will be listening to it. I enjoyed it enough to want more.
I put in my notes that these stories have a way of hooking you in even when they don't do much. Because like it's the same thing in my opinion with like, this might be a hot take, like early He Who Fights with Monsters. That's a LitRPG that is another one that's super loved, and I think it gets really good. I think the first like book or two don't do a lot. They just.
I remember you saying too. You're like, man, I don't know if I want to keep reading this, and then all of a sudden you finish like 10 books. I was like, wait.
Yeah, the stories have a way of hooking you in because you want to see the main character like reach their peak, because you can see that like there's a promise of, even though that's probably one thing that we forgot to mention, the promise of like future power scaling or the expectation of future power scaling. Like I want to see how she's going to get stronger, and so I'm like hooked in, even though I don't feel like there was like a lot of like story elements, Yeah,
I think so. Like overall scoring wise, I think that this is one of those that's weird because like between us, 6.5 and 6.25, we're at like, I don't know, what is it, 6.37 or something. It's interesting the fact that I feel like I enjoyed this book more than the score reflects, but like breaking it down, it was just a very simple, not run of the mill, but it was a very simple one that's doing things that have been done before, but I enjoy listening to those things. So it makes it enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said that this is maybe the wrong like media format for this. Like just like us comparing it to traditionally published books is, I think, the wrong media format. I liked the audiobook and I had a really good time listening to it. And I think that this could really excel in a like manga context or anime context. And I'm sure it does good on Royal Road because that's kind of the same idea of like reading like a week to week episode, like as things like this are released. But looking at it from a traditionally published book, like our scale is meant for not trad published necessarily. Our scale is meant for traditional books. And so this maybe doesn't do as well, as it doesn't necessarily reflect how we felt, like you said.
Yeah, because I don't know what I would change about our scale to like fit this thing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like for the most part, our scale hits most things. The only thing I would change about like different things would be maybe if it was like a nonfiction type book or something.
Yeah,
I'd be like, okay, we need to change things up.
the difference, I think, is that I think it's what you're going to a book for. And us going to read books, we're looking for our books to hit these points. But if I was going to sit down, and I haven't done this in a long time because we've been reading a lot more lately, but like I used to sit down and read manga like when I had slow moments at work or like when I just had some time to kill. And I wasn't always looking for like a story that hit all the points. I was just like I was okay reading something
You
that I would
wanted a
now
vibe
consider
check
like slop.
over.
Yeah, I was just like
Yeah.
chilling, like scrolling through like old Naruto or like something that is like a anime or like a manga. It was okay if it wasn't like incredible. Like there's a lot out there that are just like there's 600 chapters and they don't necessarily do anything in the first 150 chapters, but it's okay because you're having fun like watching the main character level up. And so something like that kind of vibe check could be good for this, but us rating it alongside like traditional stories doesn't do the same thing.
Interesting. So overall, 6.37. I did enjoy the story. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah,
Again,
me
thank
too.
you to Soundbooth Theater for sending us the book, sending us the audio file to be able to listen to it. So I'm glad we got to do that. We'll see what happens when the next one comes out.
Agree. Approved.
Approved.
Yeah, conditional recommendation. I think this would be a fun. I'd recommend to people who like lit RPGs and who like progression fantasy. Give it a listen.
It'd be a neat time.
Yeah.
I would recommend it.
Same.
Anyway, thanks for
With
watching.
that-
Thanks for being here. We love you all.
RSQ out.